Hello everyone and welcome back to part 2 of our reading ZADR fanfiction series. We are reading Friends by Chloe the Potato. We are on chapter 4 and let's see, in the last episode, I almost said Gone and Killua. I'm getting my fandoms mixed up. Dim, Zim, Gur, and Gaz went into space because Gur and Zim had just befriended them because, the Tallists abandoned Zim. And then they ran into the Tallists in a rundown ship, and all of them are going back to Earth just for the snacks, says the Tallists. So that's where we're at, and let's just get right into it, shall we? Both ships land outside Dib's house. Gaz angrily jumps out and grabs her water gun. Zim crawls out and is sprayed with water. Zim screeches and uses Dib as a human shield. "We better go tomorrow, or this turns into the hose." Gaz throws the water gun down and storms inside. Zim crawls away from Dib and straightens himself out. "I guess we're going to that space arcade tomorrow then." Dib laughs as Zim violently shakes the water off him before it causes lots of damage. "I guess," Zim grumbles. The Tallists walk out of their spaceship in their human disguise. Red is wearing a polo shirt with tan shorts and flip-flops as he has a wig with short hair that looks like Zim's, but it's much more real and not stiff like Zim's. It also doesn't have that gap between the part of it. He's wearing contacts, but due to the intensity of his red eyes, it shows up as red. Purple is wearing a sweatshirt, black tights like Zim, and boots. He has a wig with slicked back hair. It's stiff like Zim's wig. His contacts show up purple like Zim's, but much more intense. Red and purple don't bother to hide their green skin. "My Tallists, you look," Zim starts. "Humans seriously wear this? It looks so stupid," Purple says sarcastically. "What? No, you look great. I think the shirt looks nice on you," Red says, checking him out. Purple blushes and rolls his eyes. Zim watches them interact and gasps. "Gay!" Zim shouts and points at them. Dib bursts out laughing and takes a step back. The Tallists stare at Zim, confused. "What is gay?" Red asks. "Dib Monster told me this thing, and you touch hands and kiss," Zim explains poorly. Dib pushes him aside and stands in front of the Tallists. "It's not important. Let's start getting those snacks." Dib steps over Zim and leads the Tallists to the store. "How can you guys eat so much?" Dib groans as he lays on the floor of Zim's house. The Tallists are on the couch, sharing a 2-liter bottle of pop cola. "We're not eating, we're drinking," Purple replies. Dib crawls over to Zim, who's trying to wake up Gur. "So, are they gonna live here?" Dib asks. "Well, of course! They love Zim." Zim praises himself, and then closes Gur's head. Let's see if he turns on. Zim sets Gur down. Gur's LED lights turn into a red light, but switches to its blue when he sees Zim. He looks around the house. "Is this the arcade?" Gur asks. "No, we're at home. We're going tomorrow," Zim replies. Gur nods and jumps onto the couch next to the Tallists and starts eating their snacks. The Tallists keep the ones they haven't tried yet away from Gur. "I'm going home," Dib groans, standing up. He brushes himself off and waves to Zim as he walks out the door. Zim waves back to Dib and closes the door. Dib rubs his eyes and starts his walk home. He passes by some kids from his school. He tries his best to ignore them and hope they didn't notice him. They did, of course. When didn't they notice him? "Hey Dib, how is Zim this time?" one of them asks. Dib rolls his eyes and continues walking. "Hey Dib, did you catch him with his alien leaders?" yells one kid, running up to Dib. "Yes, actually, and they're pretty cool," Dib replies. The kid pushes Dib. He trips slightly but doesn't fall. He shakes it off and continues walking. He takes out his phone to listen to music, to drown them out. The tallest kid in the group takes Dib's phone out of his hands. "You got any pictures?" A certain cockiness in his voice. "Yeah, we're kind of friends now." Dib reaches for his phone. The kid opens the photos and scrolls through Dib's selfies with Zim. "Friends? You mean boyfriends, right?" The kid laughs and tosses Dib's phone. Dib catches it and makes sure he didn't delete anything. He's not my boyfriend. Dib feels his face get hot. He doesn't know why, though. Luckily, his house is right there. He hopes they'll just stop talking already. "How'd you break your arm? Did he use his alien technology on you?" The shortest kid teases. "No, I fell off his roof. I was putting security cameras in his house. He broke the last ones." He opens the door to his house and steps inside. He doesn't even bother to look at them as he mutters, "Now, if you'll excuse me," and slams the door behind him. "Welcome home, son," Membrane says from the kitchen. "Hey, Dad," Dib replies, storming into his room. He rushes inside and flops on his bed. All the snacks he ate and the anger from those kids were not doing too well in his stomach. He groans loudly and slides off the bed onto the floor. If he went back in time a few days ago and told himself that he would be eating snacks with his enemy's leaders, he probably would have thought it was Zim trying to trick him and take himself out. Dib laughs and silently screams into his pillow. He can't believe he's friends with his enemy. It makes him feel warm and fuzzy inside. He's never had a friend before, but now he has one. Dib tried to reach for his notebook. When he remembered, his arm is broken. It's been a few days. He should be fine. His dad gave him some science stuff and his injuries heal faster. Dib slowly takes off his bandages and moves his arm. It's stiff, but after stretching it, it's more flexible. Dib throws away the bandages and lays back on his bed, grabbing his notebook. Entry number 96. Some bullies made fun of me. It was calmer than usual. I'm glad though. Zim's leaders can eat so much. I have no idea how. They could eat everything on Earth and still have room for the last slice of cake. Zim is making me very confused. He's making me feel weird. I've never felt this way before. Then again, I've never had a friend. This is how you feel towards a friend? Anyway, I took the bandages off my arm. It's all healed up, I think. Dib tosses his notebook on the ground. He groans loudly and pulls his hands and puts his hands on his face. This feeling isn't normal. Chapter 5. It was finally the last week of school. Dib and Zim's relationship grew a lot. They went to space a lot. They do pretty much everything together. School projects, eating lunch, walking to and from school. Dib was walking to his next class, talking to Zim, when he saw a poster on the wall for prom. The school thought it was unfair for prom to be all seniors, so it's open to all grades. What? I didn't even have a okay. Moving on. Dib rolls his eyes at the poster. No one would go to him to prom. Dib rolls his eyes at the poster. No one would go with him to prom. Well, Zim would. But he would rather have a date, unless... No, he shouldn't think these thoughts. They're just friends. Dib mentally slaps himself and turns to Zim. Hey Zim, go ahead to class, I'll be right there. Dib waves to Zim and runs off. He doesn't know why, but he feels like his heart is beating way too fast. Zim shrugs and walks to class. He sits down in his normal spot and waits for Dib. He's doodling in his notebook. He's drawing Sizzlor burning in oil. All of a sudden, someone sits next to him. He assumes it's Dib and turns to show him the picture, but it wasn't Dib. It was a short kid with a familiar haircut. Hey Zim, it's me. The kid gives Zim a big smile. Zim stares at him before turning away. Sorry kid, I don't know you, Zim says, scribbling over the drawing he drew. The kid laughs and scoots over. Quit messing around, it's me. Scooch? I don't think I'm saying that right. Sorry, he says. Zim looks back at him. Yep, it was Scooge. How dare you have a better disguise? Dib growls and rubs his eyes. Why are you here? I thought you left to be a nurse or something. Zim groans. That's a different fanfiction. Multiple ZADR fanfictions, I'm implying. Anyway, I thought it would be fun to hang out with you and the tallists, Scooge says, leaning closer to Zim. Ugh, you remind me of Keith, Zim mumbles, leaning away from the Urkin. Dib walks in. He clearly had a mental breakdown. Excuse me, I usually sit here, Dib says, tapping Scooge's shoulder. Oh, sure, I can move. Scooge hops over to the seat on the other side of Zim. Do you know who that is? Dib asks. That's Scooge. We were in training together back on Urk, Zim says, ignoring Scooge, who was trying to talk to him. Is he gonna hurt you? Like Tack? Dib says, getting his defenses up. No, he's my friend. Kind of. I don't really like him too much, Zim says, rolling his eyes. You don't like anyone, Dib laughs. I like you, Zim says, slightly pushing Dib. Dib laughs nervously. For some reason, Zim was making him feel very weird. It reminds him of when they first became friends. Dib turns to face the teacher, who was talking about something in space. But his eyesight turned to Zim. Whenever the teacher talked about space, Zim had an amused look. You know he's totally wrong about that, Zim laughs and turns back to the teacher. Dib soon looks over to the new kid, Scooge. He was messing around with his bottom right pack leg. The only way someone would notice if they got on the ground. But Dib noticed because Zim would always do the exact thing when he was bored. He looked at Zim's notebook. There were a few scribbled out drawings, except for the one he was working on. It was him using a gun to shoot a star. Interesting. Dib starts to doodle in his notebook as well. He hasn't done a full-page drawing since middle school, but he decided to fill up the whole page. He usually drew Zim getting dissected or him standing over Zim in victory, but it just drew Zim. He filled the page, drawing Zim's face. The bell rings and the kids start to rush out of the room. Zim starts to pack up his stuff. Zim looks down at Dib's notebook. Is that me? He smirks. Dib slightly blushes. Yeah, I haven't drawn you in a while, so it's kinda bad. He laughs. Zim covers his face. Dib noticed it's a bit purple. Scooge hops between them. Do you guys want to get ice cream? I saw this ice cream place on the way here. He starts to walk off. They both watch him talk to himself on the way out the door. Zim rolls his eyes and they start to walk up to the school entrance to go home. But they're stopped by a group of girls that Zim became friends with. They're laughing and trying to get each other to say something. Finally, one girl steps up to them. Are you two going to prom together? She asks. Well, maybe not together, but as friends, totally, he explains. The girls laugh and squeal before running off. What's prom? Zim asks. Dib uncovers his face and looks at Zim. It's a dance people go to. It's usually for seniors, but our school is stupid, so it's for anyone who wants to come, Dib explains. Why did it make your face all red? Zim asks, pressing his hand on Dib's cheek. It's 'cause, well, no reason. Let's just go home. Dib grabs Zim's hand and starts to walk out. Can I spend the night at your house? It's my tallest movie night, and I don't feel like watching Lilo and Stitch for the 4th time this week. Oh my god, they would so love Lilo and Stitch. That'd be like their whole thing. Dib hesitates for a moment. Sure. Dad doesn't really notice you when you're here. Dib gives Zim a forced smile. They walk past Zim's house and make their way to Dib's house. When they got inside, they walked past Gaz and Clembrain and hopped into Dib's room. Chapter 6. Zim watched as Dib slept. He couldn't sleep tonight, so he was pretty bored. He thought about waking him up, but decided not to, just let him sleep. Zim looked at his phone. Dib convinced him to get one. He noticed he had an extra number. He had a text from an unknown number. Hey Zim, I found your number, lol. Who are you? How did you get my number? It's Scooch. I got your number from your girlfriend's. Zim turns off his phone. The last person he wants to talk to is Scooch. He tosses his phone on Dib's desk. He looks back at Dib. He fell asleep with his glasses on. Zim walks over to him, crawls on the bed, takes them off, folded them, and put them on his desk. He sits there for a second before pulling the covers over him and laying down next to Dib. He pressed his face to Dib's chest. He can feel his heartbeat. Zim felt Dib's arm wrap around him. Zim could feel his breathing stop. Eventually, he fell asleep next to Dib. When Dib awoke, he felt something next to him. When he looked down, he saw Zim sleeping next to him. Dib had a mini panic attack and tried to slow down and tried to slowly move out without waking Zim. But whenever he moved, Zim started to stir in his sleep. Eventually, he gave up and laid back down. He looked at the sleeping alien. Zim must have taken off his disguise while he was asleep. Dib tried to reach first phone. He accidentally brushed against Zim's antenna, which caused Zim to wake up. Zim let out a small noise and shut up. Dib! Don't do that! He shouted, pressing his antenna to his head. I didn't mean to. I was just reaching for my phone. Did I hurt you? Dib asks, worried for his friend. Zim blushes and looks away. No, it doesn't. Just don't touch them. Zim's face is almost as purple as the tallest's eyes. Dib looks at Zim confused. Why would he not want him to touch his antenna? Just don't, dude. Dib reaches out and touches Zim's left antenna. Zim covers his mouth and looks away. Dib rubs the base of it. Zim starts shaking before bursting out into laughter. Dib, stop! He laughs. Dib lets go and Zim calms down. He wipes a tear from his eye and looks at Dib. So you're ticklish? Dib asks, amused. That was the first time he heard Zim genuinely laugh. Mostly. Zim rolls his eyes and puts his disguise back on. Dib puts on his glasses and steps out of bed. He stretches and walks over to his dresser. He undressed and put on his clothes for the day. When he turns around, he sees Zim staring at him curiously. Hey Dib, what's that indent on your stomach? Zim walks over to Dib and lifts up his shirt and pokes his belly button. Dib retracts always from Zim's touch. That's my belly button. It's where I was connected to my mom in the womb, Dib explains. Gross! Zim rolls his eyes and lifts up his hoodie. I don't have one, probably because I was grown in a tube. He laughs. Dib stares at him before awkwardly laughing. Zim looks at his hoodie. It's pretty dirty. He looks over at Dib's dresser. Can I borrow one of your shirts? He asks. Dib looks over at his clothes. They're gonna be big on you. Here. Dib reaches into his closet and gets one of his old shirts. One he had when Zim came to Earth. It's one he didn't wear too often. It had a pink bunny on it from some comic he liked. Zim put it on. It is a little big, but it looked nice on him. So what do you want to have for breakfast? Zim asks as he walked out of Dib's room. Most likely whatever Frudio makes. You can ask for eggs and bacon. Well, that's meat. What exactly do you eat? Dib walks with Zim into the kitchen. Gaz looks at them. She covers her smirk with her hand. Dib, you look good this morning. She holds back a laugh. Dib stares at her in confusion. He sits down and Frudio gives him a plate of waffles. With waffles. Zim sits next to him and takes Dib's plate of waffles. I may not eat often, but right now, I want these waffles. Zim takes a bite of stolen waffle. Dib grabs his fork and starts to eat his stolen waffles. Are you guys dating? Gaz asks. Dib chokes on his waffle. Zim stares at her. Why would you think that? Dib laughs. Well, you slept in the same bed, Zim was wearing your clothes, and just... Dib, it really looks like you had sex last night, Gaz explains. Dib covers his entire face and lets out a muffled scream. Gaz, we didn't do anything. I was already asleep when Zim went to bed with me. Dib laughs, embarrassed. Zim pokes at his food. He wouldn't admit it, but he feels bad but he feels bad for cuddling into Dib. Oh sure. Gaz rolls her eyes and gets up out of the chair. Sooner or later, you'll be together. She walks out of the room and turns on the TV. Well, that was embarrassing. Zim eats the last of his waffle and pushes the plate to Dib. What do you want to do today? We could watch a movie. There's this one about this alien invasion or something. We could watch it and laugh at it, and we could watch it and laugh at how stupid it is. Dib suggests. Zim nods and gathers his things. I'm just gonna go home. Text me or come to my house when you want to go. Zim waves goodbye to his friend and walks out. He looks around. It must have been raining while they were sleeping, because there's puddles of water on the sidewalk. What a great time to wear flip-flops. Zim carefully steps around the puddles, trying to avoid getting any water on him. He approached one huge puddle. There was no going around this one. Zim takes a few steps back, then runs at the puddle at full force. Right before he gets to the puddle, he jumps and barely lands on the other side. He falls backwards but catches himself. That was close, he thought as he continued forward. He makes his way home. Once he gets there, he opens the door to Gur eating one of the tallest's shoe. Gur! Stop that! Zim yells, grabbing the shoe. Gur resists and handing it over and pulls it back. Zim pulls back as hard as possible. Gur lets go of the shoe. Thanks for that, Zim mumbles, tossing the shoe onto the shoe rack. Gur laughs and runs off. Zim takes off his disguise and walks to his room. Now that his tallists live with him, he had to make his own room to have some alone time. They were so loud and lovey-dovey with each other. It gets on Zim's nerves. Zim lays down on his bed. He looks at the shirt Dib gave him. He presses his face into the fabric, but immediately stops when he hears Gur in the doorway. He looks over at him. Gur is chewing on his phone. Gur, stop! Zim grabs his phone. What is with him today? He looks at the time. Wait, it's Tuesday. Dib, we have school! Zim sent a message to Zim. No? Check the website. I could have sworn it said it was senior testing day. Zim looks at the school website. It says there's no school for seniors. Dib, seniors don't have to go to school. Read. 8:57 a.m. Zim assumes Dib is rushing out the door. Zim makes sure he looks nice and grabs his disguise. He makes one last check to make sure he had his umbrella and rain boots before walking out of the house. He's not too worried about being late. I mean, they both already missed first period and they were going to get to school around the end of the second. He sees something behind him and sees Dib's bolting it. Zim reaches his arm out and Dib rams into it, knocking himself back. Zim, we're going to be late, Dib says, getting up from the ground. He wipes himself off and starts to speed walk. So, we're already late. Zim uses his pack legs to keep up with Dib. He's not too worried about someone spotting him since most people are at school or at work. Dib rolls his eyes and starts to run again. Zim follows behind. They reach the school and walk inside. A hall monitor stops them at the door. Passes, he demands, reaching out his hand. We just got here. Now move before I steal your organs again. Zim pushes him out of the way, and the both of them walk to the front office. And that's where I'm gonna leave it today. I hope y'all enjoyed a little bit of, there was, I think this episode had a bit more like, we're heading towards the romance. That's what I'm trying to say. We're getting there. Yeah. So, if you liked it, leave a like. If you have any suggestions or recommendations, comment them down below. And I'll see y'all in the next video. Don't forget to drink water and love yourself because I love you. Have a good day.